everybody. Thank you so much for coming back. This is another episode of the Arch Study of You. I am your host, Cameron Gilmore. I'm extremely excited for today's guest. A little bit of a funny story here. We were supposed to meet yesterday, but because of my poor planning and some things that were in a lot of my control, out of my control, we had to bump it to today. So as a true professional as AJ is, I appreciate him scheduling some time, rearranging his schedule, because his story, his impact to what he's doing to not only to the United States, but also down in South America and Colombia. He's going to get into that. We have a great story coming through. AJ, thank you so much for coming on the Arch Study of You. Before we get going, I just wanted to go ahead and take 5-7 minutes, kind of introduce yourself, who you are, where you come from, your background, family, and then obviously tell us about your why.
And it's a pleasure to be here on this beautiful Saturday morning. Who is AJ Vassar? Number one, I always start off by letting people know that I'm the son of Patricia Perkins and the son of Melvin Mitchell. To me, those are the two most important things in my life. No matter what I achieve, no matter what I accomplish in this life, I feel like it all started from that foundation. So I always want to pay homage and give credit to them. And it's interesting. I remember doing I remember speaking at this event, and my bio started with that, right? The son of Patricia Perkins, and people, some of the event planners were like, "You sure that's what you wanted to put?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like I put that for a reason, and it was great because my mother went to the site and she saw it, and when she saw it, she started crying. And she said, I read everybody else's bios and, everything that they accomplished, and they put all the important stuff first. And she said, you put me first. And I said, because you are the important thing in my life. Right. And I always want to make sure that my mother knows that. And it keeps me grounded to realize that, man, at the end of the day, we can get all the toys, we can get all the gadgets, we can get all the shiny stuff, but if you don't remember where you come from, then you can start to lose a grasp of reality and what really matters. I'm the oldest of her 8 children. I came from a single parent household, so I'm just amazed at some of the things that she was able to do. Like if people can see behind me, it actually says mom. And what that is done for me is I actually turned mom into an acronym. And it's mastery over motivation, because I realized in her life, she couldn't go on motivation, like to feed 8 kids, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't motivate.
Yeah.
Right? You just got to master some stuff. And so, just watching her work, and I'm like, yo, in my life, so many things I wanted to do, I've stopped it because I didn't have the motivation. And I always think like, yo, what would my mom do, right? Because she had to put mastery over motivation. So, man, growing up like that just gave me a different outtake on the world, right? We didn't have a lot. We struggled, as people can imagine with growing up with a household that big. It was challenging, man. Right? Yeah. I remember on my I believe it was my I was 13, and for Christmas, they repackaged my clothes and gave it to me for Christmas because we didn't have enough money for me and my younger brother Jeremiah to get clothes for Christmas or to get anything for Christmas because my mother told me like, yo, I got a lot of younger kids and we gotta take care of them, and so to make sure that we had something under the tree. My sister Trisha actually went and took like my favorite outfit and wrapped it up. And I was mad for like 2 weeks because I'm like, yo, where my outfit at? Like, I can't even be fresh in school. Like, I only got one cool outfit. Like, where my outfit?
Yeah.
But man, I think those are the times that you remember the most, right? Everybody talks about the great things and, all the things you can get. But I truly believe the struggle is what makes you. So, I'm happy for everything that I've been through in my lifetime. Man, my career would have been what it was if I didn't have that. Right, I became a professional barber because my mother was messing up on our hair. Like my mother wasn't paying for us to go get haircuts at the barber shop, so she would cut it, and I was like,
Yeah.
nah, I ain't having that. Like we are not doing that no more.
Yeah.
So I started learning how to cut hair, and that's how I started making money. Was being a neighborhood barber, and when I went to college, that's how I made money in college. I was cutting hair. Um, you know, I believe that if you truly become good at something, that it'll make paths for you. It'll make room for you. And when I was in school in college, um, there was a guy that owned a barber school, and I was taking so much business from him on a college campus that one of the guys came to me and was like, "Hey man, the owner of the barber college said he want to meet with you." I was like, all right. So I go up there and I meet with him, and he's like, yo, cut my hair. All right, cool. So all right.
Yeah.
So I cut his hair, and he was like, he got the mirror, he checking it out. He said, look, man, if you stop cutting hair on campus, I'll send you through my barber school for free.
No.
Yeah. Real talk. He said, if you stop cutting hair on campus, I'll send you through my barber school for free. That's how much of an impact I was having on this business. And yeah, so I was like, cool. So I actually, that's how I became a professional barber. I didn't pay for barber school. I didn't have to. I was making that much of an impact. And, I feel like if you're good at something, keep doing it, right? Keep
Right.
doing it. Keep making an impact, because silent impacts are heard more than loud ones, right? That's how I believe, right? And the reason
that's deep. That's deep. Wow. Silent impact is heard more than loud ones.
Yeah.
And that's deep.
Yeah.
So help me. So bring us back to this space real quick, AJ, because you touched on and there's so much to unfold and unravel and unpackage of what you just said. So the acronym MOM, right? Motivation over mastery.
Mastery over motivation.
Mastery over motivation. Right. Thank you. What were lessons that your mom taught you when you were growing? Look, 8 kids, single. You probably, look, let's be honest. You probably weren't in a 5,000 square foot home,
No.
9 bedrooms, let's be
Not
honest
at
with
all.
each other, right?
Not at all.
How did that, what were impact or what were lessons that your mom taught you? Because being the oldest of 8, there had to be, big responsibilities that came down, that trickulated down. So what were some of those impacts? Because obviously your mom had a great impact on you, because you start with that in your bio. I was like, that was interesting why you put that in your bio. Like you said, everybody puts all their accomplishments. So take us through some of those principles that you learned at an age where your mom had the greatest impact on you.
I think probably one of the greatest things my mom taught me, man, was that love people, right? Just the love I say she had for others. I remember one Thanksgiving, we had to go feed the homeless before we ate. Now, I'm a big guy, right? And I was so growing up, I make a joke. I was born fluffy, right? Like I've never seen my abs in my life, right? So I came out the womb liking to eat, and I remember one Thanksgiving we had to go feed the homeless. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday, right? And I was so upset, because I'm like, how are we feeding people that we almost close to? Like we damn near close to homeless. And man, it had the biggest impact on me, because I was able to see the love. I was able to see what it means to show love. See what I'm saying? And I think that just showing love, and you don't have to, and that's probably one of the biggest lessons. You don't have to have much to make a big impact. Right.
Say that again for those of us that are a little slow. Say what you just said again. Say that again.
You don't have to have much to make a big impact.
Oh, just listen to what he just said. That is so powerful. Man. All right, keep going. I apologize. I had to jump in because you don't have to have much to make the biggest impact. It is so incredibly true and such an important principle, especially now when people think they have to have this and that and the houses. Look, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing, man. I know plenty of multimillionaires who have an abundance, right? But what you just said is a core principle that I hear all the time is you don't have to have much or give much to have the greatest impact. Man, that's fantastic. All right, keep going. I apologize. Keep going.
No problem. And I'm gonna tell you how it plays out in life, right? Because my mother had us feed the homeless for Thanksgiving. And I seen how happy those people were, right? And it's like, wow, you have less than us, but you're happy. And it started, I think even back then it started shifting my mentality of what it takes to be happy. So, go forward to when I opened my barber shop, every Thanksgiving and Christmas, I would open my shop and I would give haircuts for free to anybody that was unfortunate. All because that's the seed my mother planted in me. Right. And that wasn't, I don't feel like I was doing this grand gesture. It was just like, yo, I feel like you should look nice for Thanksgiving and Christmas, right? That's the days that I'm like, no, nobody's coming in the shop. I'll open up half the day. And then I would drive, 2-3 hours to get home so I could be with my family. But it's that principle that my mother instilled in me that I was like, yo, I'm gonna do that. And going forward, you'll see how even it still plays in my life.
Yeah.
Even when I went through hardships and I went through a point when I was homeless for 3 months and I lived in my car. And after I got out my car, 2 years later, I gave 2 cars away. Right. And it's like, yo.
You can't tease the people like that. We're going to get into it. We are going to listen to his story about going from homeless to giving away 2 cars to building this movement that he's creating, which is fantastic. But I want to ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Look, I have a great barber. I love my barber here. He's fantastic. Cuts amazing hair. I know what it feels like when you walk in, you scruffed up, and you walk out, and you feel like a million bucks.
Yes,
it's amazing the impact. So take us through that journey. Let me ask this question: when you were cutting hair as a kid, because my dad cut my hair when I was a kid. I love my pops, and he would cut our hair really good, but he cut our hair the same way every single time.
Yeah.
Right. Line around the head, fade up, and then hair. So we had to wait for it to grow out till where it would fade in. And then over time, my pops got really good hair. So as a child, when you're cutting your hair, and I'm assuming all these other kids started coming over to get their haircut.
Mm-hmm.
What impact did that, especially in poverty, right? And especially when you don't have, we're going to go back to the statement you say, you don't have to have much to give, right? To have the greatest impact. So take us through that impact that you were having with your friends and neighborhood. Obviously, as they were coming over getting a haircut, they come in looking shabby, but then they would leave looking like $1 million. What impact did you see in a young age did you have over those that you were cutting hair?
Man, the biggest impact is to see what that does to the human psyche, right? Just to be groomed, just to feel good about yourself, right? It's little things like, from being slumped over a little bit to bringing your shoulders back, walking out. It's little stuff to see people smile, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing as a barber, I mean, I grew up in a rough area, so you had some guys that came in, they was some, they was gangsters, like that's what they did, right? And to see them look at they cut and be like, all right, bro, I see, right? It's like, yo, it showed me what feeling good about yourself, right, could do to your mentality, to your psyche. I've seen some of the toughest people smile just because they felt better about themselves. And that's probably why I went into coaching, because I was able to, extrapolate from the conversations I had with people in the shop and the thousands of hairs I cut and seeing, you know, the conversations and seeing that smile at the end. And I'm like, wow, that's all it takes is once you see something better, I feel like it makes you want to be a little better.
Ooh, ooh, that last sentence was deep. That was deep, man. Makes you want to be a little better. Once you see something, it makes you want to be a
Yeah.
little better, man. That,
Once you see something better, it makes you want to be a little
man,
better.
damn, that is deep. And it's true. Like, it's true that impact, a simple haircut. I mean, you see it, I see it all the time with people that, you know, even myself, you go in and you feel like you can tackle the world
Oh
when
yeah.
you get a great cut. And you're right, in the barbershop, man, there's some great conversations that are had. People at, it just seems like everybody's there. It's like a safe zone. Like, hey, whatever y'all
Yeah.
doing outside, you're doing outside. You come in here, everybody's equal, right?
Yeah.
You cut the noise out, leave it outside. You come in,
Yeah.
and
I got a great story I got to tell you about this.
all
'Cause
right.
this goes to your point. So I used to cut this police officer head named Ike, right?
Mhm.
So Ike comes in, and of course I got drug dealers, right? So it brings them together. So Ike tells them, right? Ike is in there, and they like, Ike, why they always be effing with us, man, and blah blah blah. And Ike said, man, he said, y'all need to realize we know who all the drug dealers are in the city. Like, y'all not the only drug dealers. Like, it's white drug dealers, it's Hispanic drug dealers. Like, we know all of them. The problem is you can't ride around here in a car that costs more than what that officer's salary is, and you just do it all day. It pisses them off. Like, they know you don't have a job. Like, yo, you're flaunting it in their face.
Mhm.
Like, chill. And I mean, it was just one of the realest conversations I've ever heard from a police officer. Like, yo, if y'all aren't doing stupid stuff, we can't mess with you. Like, we know all the drug dealers in the city, but we
Mhm.
have to have a reasonable reason to stop you. And if you're riding around all day in a car that costs more than my salary, right? And you have smoke in your car, and we just see you leave the liquor store and you have an open container, like, yo, that gives us probable cause. Stop doing stupid stuff. We'll leave you alone, right? And he was like,
Right.
I'm not condoning drug dealing, but look, I get it. That's the profession y'all chose. But if y'all don't want us to bother y'all, right? Stop being so open with it.
Mm,
I was like,
man.
that.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's incredible. Like, that's incredible. But that's what happens, right? That's what happens in those shops, right? It
Yeah,
happens when you go in there. I've been in plenty of barbershops throughout the United States and just listen to conversation that happens, you know, and that's a skill. And you figured it out, that skill set that you had as a younger age,
hmm,
helping and seeing that psychology change. You didn't know obviously what it was back then, but now as you look back on it,
I
you
had
can
no idea.
see the impact it had as these kids would come in and get a haircut and leave.
Hmm.
Even in the most impoverished area, even when there was no money, right? Even there was just everybody was struggling, but you had a good haircut and it changed that whole mentality. And I think small changes have the biggest impact and have lasting impact, mind altering impact. I think is amazing, amazing, man. So before we move on, I just want to touch on one more point here. Just a quick section is, what was it? Take us through that process. I mean, 8 kids in a small home, right? Just trying to get by. How tight knit was that family core then, knowing that you guys just relied on each other all the time? What were principles that you learned that have kept and followed you? Obviously, your mom had a massive impact, but what were some of those other principles that you learned growing up in just a tight knit family that you obviously have today?
Always be there for each other. And we weren't the best of friends. Like in my household, um, we just everybody was different, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I was into sports. You know, my brother was into so sports fascinated me. Um, Shiny things fascinated my brother under me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was captivated by the drug life because he liked the cars and the jewelry and all of that. I didn't. I like sports. I love football, and so we were different, right?
Mhm.
And I think all of our other brothers are just kind of like they have little bits and pieces of each of us in there. So one will play sports and want to be a drug dealer, and right. So it was that kind of dichotomy that we had. But one thing that we always did was, if you need me, I'm there. Right? Whatever it is, if you need me, I'm there. So being stuck in the house with each other so much, I think once, and then having different interests. Once we got out of the house, we were separate. We didn't hang together. We didn't do nothing together. But I remember, and me and my brother, we're a lot closer now as we gotten older. But we were just talking about this like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, "Yo, do you realize I went through my whole high school career, and I think I got into one fight up until my senior year, and then my senior year I fought. It seemed like every week because of my brother, because he realized as long as I got my big brother there, I'm good." So he liked fighting. So he was like, "Yo, what's like?" He started picking fights with everybody, and my thing was, okay, I'm gonna be there. Until I was like, "Hey, man, I'm going to college. You got to chill. Like, I can't do this no more." But I think that's what my mother instilled in us. Like, yo, y'all got. So you know what I'm saying? I don't care what y'all going through. I don't care if y'all don't like each other. Y'all hate with each other. If one is in need, then you're there for them. So that was the mentality that we had. Like, yo, I'm there.
And okay, so how then do you not let the circumstance dictate your outcome? Because look, I mean, I don't care what your color is, right? Brown, black, white, orange, pink, blue, yellow, Martian, alien, whatever it may be, right? How did you not let your circumstances dictate your outcome? How did you not just be like, look, I mean, it's just how it is. This is just where I am. It's how I grew up. So because of my circumstances, I'm going to turn out this way, right? The rich dad, poor dad mentality, right?
Right.
How did you not let that mentality dictate where you are today?
Well, I think it goes back to my upbringing with my mother. The things that your parents put in you, right? It's, I mean, I tell people all the time, like I was drugged as a kid. And they'd be like, "You were drugged? Oh my God." Drug me to church like 8 days a week. And although the way she raised us wasn't perfect, it was the best she could do, right? And it was just her telling us like, "Yo, you can be whatever you want to be, right? You can't be everything, but you can be one thing, right?" Just knowing that it was in my choices affect my outcome, not my situation.
Oh,
You know,
repeat that. Repeat that again, please, because that is fantastic. That is a fantastic point. Repeat what you just said.
my choices affect my outcome, not my situation.
Oh man, shed off the victim mentality, please. Right?
Yeah.
No victim. You're not a victim of your circumstances. I get it, man. Look, you can talk from that perspective, and I could talk from that perspective. That is such an amazing point, right? My choices, what I choose to do, how I react. My wife always tells our kids, look, news is just news. However you choose to receive that news, is it's good or bad. But yeah, I mean, obviously there's some news that, does suck. But then there's other times however you receive that news, however the choice you take to interpret it and to receive it, that's on you. And
Yeah.
but because you're not you made a stance and said, I will not allow anybody else to allow me to blame anybody else for my choices. My choices are my choices.
100%. 100%. And that, I mean, even to this day, like I believe that. So when I look at my life and things aren't how I want them, right? Then I look at, hey, well, what have you been doing? Right? Because you're like, I'm 100% responsible for my life. 100%. Good and bad, right? Everybody talks about the self-made millionaires. Nobody talks about the self-made average people, but the average people are self-made too. right? So if I'm not there, I realize everything I do is self-made, man. So I don't, I don't blame my mother. I don't blame my programming, because it's a lot of stuff that I had to clean out in my programming because, we did come from a rough place. I did get programmed to be poor, right? I was still going to be a good citizen, right? I was still
Mhm.
going to be a working part of the community, but I wasn't going to be rich. So I still had to do a lot of self work, even based on everything my mother taught me, because she just handed down the programming that she had.
Mhm.
Um, but as far as my moral compass, man, it was you make choices, you live with your choices, and be 100% responsible for your life. Like it ain't my mother's fault, it ain't my father's fault. You know, it ain't. My father died when I was 8 years old. All right, now what? You know that
Mhm.
I can't make that excuse. I grew up without a dad, right?
Mhm.
My mother told me, find male role model. Like, cool, you don't got a dad, find a male role model.
Mm.
Like that was it. It wasn't, my mother. I love
Wow.
that. It was. She ain't give me no pity party. She was like, "Yo, this is what it is.
Mhm.
You can't change that. You
Right.
know, I mean, she was very sad that my father, but it wasn't nothing she could do about it. It was like, yo, find male role models. Who do you want to? Whose life do you like, right? And
Mhm.
then find out what they did to get that life.
Ooh, man, I love that saying. Find me a role model, dude. Man,
Yo, that
look,
was that was her thing. Like, yo, find a role model.
man, this look. Those of you that are watching this or listening on all the streaming services, man, just pause for a second and go back and reflect on the nuggets that AJ has just dropped. I mean, talking about the word mom, how he does mom, be responsible for your choices, find yourself a role model. I mean, the little things will have the greatest impact. Find ways to serve. It doesn't have to be big things. It could be just simple things. Write a letter to somebody, put a sticky note on somebody's door. Like give a hug, give a high five, a smile goes a long way. Man, just nugget after nugget. All right, man. I gotta we because we're stuck, we're not stuck, we're in this mode of choices, right? I gotta ask you because I know it was on there, so I gotta ask you, man, how did we go from this where obviously where you were college, went through college, had your whole barber school paid for? That was fantastic. How did we end up homeless? How did we end up homeless? And how did we get out of that? Take us through that journey of homeless to now I'm going to give away 2 cars.
All right, so the homelessness journey actually began in my barbershop. So I had my first millionaire mentor, a guy named Dennis Vincent. Shout out to Mr. Vincent. I started cutting his hair. He owned a packaging company that did business with Procter and Gamble. And so he's worth millions of dollars. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, yo, I'm cutting his hair, and I asked him to mentor me, and he was like, yo, cool, and I was always intrigued by him because when we were alone, he would he would talk to me, right? But when it was a shop full of people, he would be very quiet. And I was like, Mr. Vincent, you be in here, man. You hear us talking about business, and you know more than all of us in business, man. Why don't you chime in and correct us and tell us stuff? And he said, AJ, I know everything. I know. I want to know what y'all know.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yo, you're worth more than everybody in here put together, and you're still listening to what we know, right? And it taught me something about people that have really made it, right? I had this connotation of how they were. Like you see how they portray millionaires, and you'd be like, oh, they cocky and they got. And his dude, I mean, he was just so different than what I imagined. I remember one day I told him, I said, I want to own a business like you. And he said, well, if you do, you have to learn how to sell and how to lead people. So I was like, cool. So I was like, where should I go to learn how to sell? And he was like, Atlanta. He was like, Atlanta's a great spot. So I actually sold my barbershop and moved to Atlanta. And I took 100% commission sales job. Um, and I struggled. Yeah, I I struggled for a long time. But during my struggles, I actually wasn't homeless during then. It wasn't until after I actually worked for Aflac for like 2 years. So I became a hustler. I was working for Aflac, Low Country Barbecue, the aquarium, and like I was just making it.
Mhm.
And the reason I sold my barbershop was because I wanted to burn my ships. I knew that
Mm.
if I held on to my barbershop anytime I needed money, I would just run back and make $1,000 in a weekend. And so I sold it. Um, so I come back. I'm in Atlanta. I'm selling. My cousin notices that I'm doing great selling. He's like, "Yo, let's start a business together." So we started a mobile app company where we're selling mobile apps and text message marketing and stuff like that, mobile marketing. So we're doing great. We built the like I got to meet Dr. Bernice King, Dr. King's daughter.
Mhm.
I started working with them. I was meeting some very influential people, taking pictures, doing all the stuff. But I realized that taking pictures and being around famous people did not equate to checks in the mail. Right? It's like
Right.
I lost sight of what was happening because I was like, oh yeah, we'll do because we did the for the 50th anniversary for the March on Washington. The I Have a Dream speech. We actually did the mobile app for them. It
Mm.
was called the Let Freedom Ring app. So we
Okay.
developed a mobile app. Worked with an organization called 1 Billion Rising. I worked with Ted Turner's daughter, the owner of the founder of CNN.
Mhm.
His daughter Laura Turner. I worked with her. So I'm around all this money, but I'm not extracting the money out. So in 20 what April 20th 2014. I didn't have it. I'll never forget, it was an Easter Sunday. And I remember everybody was, I was in church and everybody was happy and I was not because I knew I didn't have a place to go after. Um, and it changed. So how I ended up homeless was because I had to always keep mentors, right? That'll be the common thing in my life, always seeking mentors. I had a mentor in Atlanta named Sam Shepard. Sam Shepard is the number one earner in Primerica, number one African American earner in Primerica. At the time, he was making about $140,000 a month. He probably making a lot more than that now. And I told him, I said, Sam, I'm about to move back to Texas with my mom until I get on my feet because I'm about to be homeless. And Sam, I mean, he's the first one to teach me what like tough love is. Sam said, "No, you're not." He said, "Number one, no woman wants a man that runs to his mom when times get hard, and you don't want to start that habit now." He said, "Number two, you'll learn more from your car than you ever will running from your problems." And then he said, "I have a safe parking lot for you to sleep in."
Dang. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, changed the game for me, man. Because
Man.
I'm thinking when he said no, you're not. I thought Sam was about to loan me some money.
Mhm.
I'm like, man, if he just loaned me 10% of what he making a month, that's 14. I'll be back on my feet. He said, no, he said, I got a safe parking lot for you to sleep.
Dang. Yeah, talk about some tough love.
Yeah,
Holy cow. I love,
yeah.
I love, I love I love what he said, right? You got to say that again. Say the thing that he said about a woman, and then say the thing that he said about your car.
So he told me, he said, no woman wants a man that runs to his mom when times get hard. And he said, you don't want to start that habit right now. I was like,
Wow.
and then he said, you'll learn more from your car than you ever will running from your problems.
Dang. That's it. That's a master class in itself. Those two principles, going back to running home, right? Going back to mom or dad, or both parents or one parent in this case, just running home. It's not just running back, but it's the idea of, oh, I'm safe to go back home.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hard times. And parents, look, parents love their children. So, okay, you're down at hard
Yeah.
times. Yep, come in, get regrouped. Now look, there are circumstances where that is a good thing, right? There are places that
Yeah.
happen, but just because you're going back because it's hard, that's impactful, man.
Yeah.
That
And
is.
every woman in my life, like my sister, my aunt, all of them were like, just come live here. Right.
Mhm.
And it was because of Sam that I could be like, nah. And it was a story that I actually read about um, a man and a butterfly. So the story goes that a man was walking by and he saw a cocoon and he saw the cocoon moving. So he thought he'd sit there and watch it. And he noticed that the butterfly was, a butterfly was trying to come out of it. And he watched it probably for about 30, 45 minutes. And he was like, yo, the butterfly's struggling, let me help it. So he takes out a little switchblade and he puts a slit in it to help the butterfly. And what falls out is like this half butterfly, half caterpillar, right? And it'll never fly. And the reason being is because he didn't realize that during the process of the butterfly struggling to get out, it actually pushes blood from its body to its wings that gives it strength, right? So sometimes in our helping, we actually handicap the person for the rest of their life.